That's why Empire needs to crumble.
Honestly, I'm pro Mule now. I'm pro Mule. He's the only one that he said Empire's wrong, Foundation's wrong. I'm about to agree. If this is the representation we have,
Empire's wrong, Foundations are wrong. Let's all go to a club. Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Mark and I are talking about the thrilling science fiction TV show Foundation, Season 3, Episode 5, where Tyrants Spend Eternity, so spoilers are ahead. And if you're enjoying our content, then a like would be appreciated. If you don't want to miss a single one of our breakdowns, then just be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. And with that, what are your thoughts on Gaal and Dawn?
I feel like they brought up this very interesting concept. We know the mule can kind of control people. We've seen Gaal be able to influence people, but not, I don't know if we've necessarily known that she could control people. And there is that interesting dynamic that they have where Dawn is asking her if she influenced him to join their cause. And the response...
She doesn't even know.
She doesn't know. It's like a blurred line. And I mean, I feel like if you are that type of person that's able to control these things, then trying to get somebody to do something and having that ability to kind of nudge them or have them do it, it would be hard to know where one starts and where one ends, especially if you want someone to do something.
You know, what I think is kind of messed up is I feel like she's gone full Harry at this point. Like full Harry Seldon, using other people, manipulating them, lying to them, potentially, I'm not that Harry did this, but potentially influencing them using like her mentalic skills in order to get what she wants, which is so different from the Gaal we saw season 1 that Harry was doing these things to.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a great point that I didn't even really see that, but she has become we felt so bad for Gaal the first season because Harry just kept doing stuff and not telling her and then just being like, well, this is where it's at, this is what happened, sorry, this is where we're at. And the fact that Gaal did the same thing, she knew that the enclosure would fail, she needed it to fail, she had to suspect the mule would be using the jump gate, and she lied to Dawn about it. And I mean, I feel like if I was Empire and I was Dawn and I just had this huge rug pull, I would feel kind of like, I don't know if I want to trust Second Foundation. That seems a little risky.
Yep. And I feel really bad for Dawn because the timing of it means that so many bad things have happened to him. It's got to be tough for him to trust at this point because he just left Dusk when Dusk needed him the most. So he kind of betrayed Dusk a little bit. He ends up at least believing in the cause that he's doing. And so he kills a woman when, she shows up and, and possibly would spread the word of what was going to happen. And then him starting the complete unraveling of Empire and then realizing that she kind of betrayed him. That's just a lot to deal with. I like the relationship it seemed like they had.
Yeah, I could almost see them getting together. I was like, I like this. I could see this.
Yeah, so I feel really bad for him right now.
I mean, I feel really bad. You think back to the very first episode of this season when he is first introduced and he talks about each Cleon sitting on the throne. Is it their chance to revive Empire, or is it their chance to be the last of Empire? And I think he truly thought that he was going to save Empire by working with Gaal. And then Gaal was kind of actually, no, I really just needed Empire to be weak. And that's kind of that's pretty messed up of Gaal, right?
Yeah,
she kind of gets him in this fold. She's starting to very manipulative, being hey, we're going to work on this. We got to stop the mule. And I get why she's doing it. I understand the mule's a huge threat. We got to get this done. But let's tell people, hey, I need you to put up a thing. It's going to fail. We need it to fail. I know this seems crazy, but also I can talk to you with my mind. So just trust me on this. Maybe I might know things.
Yeah, it's rough. It was interesting on the ship when we see them that we saw Salvor's zygote. I think this is like the setup for season 4, maybe 5, something like that, is that we'll see the next generation of, of this line.
Is Gaal going to carry the zygote?
I didn't think about that.
It's my thought process. But I was kind of torn about the whole zygote idea.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with the first season, they brought up the zygote with Gaal and Raish really early on. That was really good to set up the whole Salvor twist. Great. But like, we haven't really talked about Salvor having a zygote. Like, you would assume that it was probably from Hugo, potentially. But like, she went into cryo sleep. When did they take the zygote? How would it be on the beggar? When did Gaal get the zygote? Like, who impregnated that zygote? Like, I feel like it feels a little ham-fisted in there, just to be like, hey, let's keep this going, or not keep this going. I don't know what their plan with it is, but I wasn't the biggest fan.
It feels a little bit Star Wars-esque, where there are these like family names that are always important regardless of like the span of time that happens, so it's like it's always a Skywalker, it's always a whatever, in this case, like even though we've had like 300 years, and I get the dynasty, like that totally makes sense why we've had the same Cleons the whole time, but at some point, when we get to like 400 years on, if it's still them, the Cleons, and Gaal and Harry, they do introduce other characters, but it still feels almost kind of like Star Wars, where it's like these family names have to always be there. And at some point, I kind of feel like the story would potentially move on from that, and other people would rise to the absolute top, not just like second tier,
Yeah, that was kind of like one. I've always talked about like how they introduce characters can sometimes make certain things feel a little flat. And I think that in this episode specifically, with what was going on with Tarisk, is that his name?
Oh, Tarisk.
He's the one they blackmailed basically to get the vote.
I think Tarisk.
My biggest problem with this character is that it felt kind of, like, he lost his family. I feel like we're supposed to empathize with him in being in this difficult position. But like, he was introduced in this episode and then ushered out this episode. So there wasn't a lot of like weight. Like, I think that if maybe they used him a little bit more, like in, say, like the meetings with Foundation, gave him a little bit more, maybe briefly mentions like, this whole thing with Calgon is crazy because my family's on there and I can't get to them and I just want them home. Like, that could have led to a little bit more emotional depth for when we see him lose his family and maybe justify his anger towards Dawn. But I feel like when you have these like these seasons where, the cast is constantly changing, moments like that don't hit as hard, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think the moment of the mule destroying Calgon overall and like the jump gate, like I think that was pretty impactful. Or even the ships, which we didn't even really see any of the ships get destroyed. We were just told that the ships got destroyed.
Yeah.
But like, I think it would have been a little bit more if we had more to care on that planet.
I don't know if his death was really meant to be that impactful. I think that like there were much bigger plot points going on with like what happened on Calgon being kind of the big moment. What I thought was interesting about like the Calgon thing is Dawn and I both had no belief that the enclosure was going to work. Like it was too early in the season, and yet it still was very satisfying because of like, one, I think that the mule, I'm very much enjoying his portrayal. Like it's interesting how he can like feel in control and still feel kind of like unhinged. And then the rift that causes with like Dawn and Gaal, and the fact that you don't realize that like Gaal knew it was going to fail and that was part of the plan. Like, I think that was still a big surprise. And so I think like those were kind of the big moments. I think most people probably didn't think that there was no way we were going to lose the mule at this point. episode
sure.
5.
No, I did think so. My perspective of what could have happened was that they were able to successfully contain him on Calgon, and that's where most of the like fighting was going to take place, or what, like we see this big destruction that we see a lot. Like I just assumed that potentially, or like it wouldn't work for long. Like he would have found a way to get out. Like I had that notion, like, but like you said, it was still very surprising that it failed so bad and we lost the planet of Calgon, which was also surprising.
Yeah, that was quite dramatic. And then, like I said, like the rift that kind of created was wild. And then we end up with like Demerzel boarding the craft, which was funny because like I think that spoke to something that Gaal said earlier in the episode when she's like, don't worry, like I've been dead for however many centuries, so like I'm not going to be in any databases, but like the one thing that's been around for hundreds of years and the memory never can be tampered with. Like Demerzel knew her right away. It wasn't like, oh, let me go through my data banks to remember. She was like, Gaal.
I am so hyped for Gaal and Demerzel to talk. Like, honestly, what feels like the two smartest people in the show, and
Harry is still around, although we haven't seen him a ton right now, but yes.
Harry is around, but also he's getting old. He's losing a step, I'm sure. Like he's not as nimble as he used to be. Like these two are in their peak. Yeah. Well, Demerzel's always in her peak. She's never changing. But a conversation between these two with two opposite ideologies, what does that look like? Like that, I am so hyped for that conversation. I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't know what to look forward to, but I know it's going to be so good. Like,
I wonder whether or not this event could be the ripcord that Demerzel has been looking for, where it becomes clear the dynasty's over. The only Cleon she has left is the one that she's about to zap out of existence. And so it's like, is it all over and she is able to, work to help Foundation, or even knowing that at this point Empire is on a steep downhill decline, does she still have to dig in because of that programming and fight hard tooth and nail for the survival of something that's dying, that's on its way out? I'm very interested in this.
Oh yeah, no, the stuff that's going on with the Empire is the coolest stuff. I was very surprised. Like, I'm excited to see more what's going on with Day. I feel like we got just a little tease of what he's up to in mycology, but the fact that
mycogen, I think.
Mycogen, you're right. Mycology is the study of mushrooms.
Yeah.
So
yes,
mycogen. You're right.
Yes.
You're right. But no, I am I was a little surprised that Dem was just like, Day's gone and we'll never see him again.
Which we know isn't true.
Well, we'll see him again. Will she see him again?
I think so. And once again, like going back to what I noticed the last episode of the fact that the intro has the statue touching her arm means that mycogen, I think, has a big part to play in this.
Ooh. You think they'll take over Trantor?
I don't know, but like I think it has a big part to play. Like right now it seems like a very disconnected story, and that he is just getting out this way. But obviously it has to connect back to the main story. I don't think it would be prominently part of the intro if it wasn't like prominently part of the show. So there's something brewing there.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean
some kind of strong mushroom tea that they're brewing.
I like it.
Down there.
I do feel like you're right. It does. I think this is kind of like when I felt like when we first got to the Mentalics with Gaal and Harry, I was kind of like, this feels like a pointless side quest or whatever.
Yeah.
And I do feel like with Day and mycogen, this does feel like a kind of a side quest. but it probably does have a bigger part to play in everything.
The part that makes it feel pointless to me is the fact that it's a ferretless existence.
I don't want to live in a ferretless existence. That's, I mean, at least we know the ferret's being taken care of by that. Maybe she finds out that her dad dies and she's like, fuck this ferret.
Why would they keep housing that family once that Claviger's gone? Like, they don't, that's not a favor, or that's not like something they do to be nice.
Sure, but maybe the Claviger, he was technically still working for the Clavigers.
Yes.
He wasn't doing what Day wanted. Like, he was going to betray him, so he was staying faithful to the thing. Day did kill him, so I wonder if that's considered like an honorable death, and maybe the family is taken care of until the daughter dies. Potentially.
Hopefully the Clavigers have a nice retirement plan and they get to keep the house.
Yeah.
After they're done claviging.
Right. That's, I mean, I would assume that, unless they're just like, all right, they just kick him out the palace. All right, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Do you think Dawn is still alive?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
I do. He was wearing the little spacesuit.
True.
He just got blown out into space, and
he has his nanites in him, so they can track him, maybe?
Right, yeah.
So, potentially.
Yeah, I definitely think he's around.
Was pretty heartbreaking when he called Dusk to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Just the fact that this Dusk has already been struggling with his ascension. Now both of his brothers will not be there for his ascension.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh God, and I know maybe this Dusk isn't great. He created the Death Star or whatever, but
I was going to say that's why he still has a big part to play. Like, I know that right now it seems like his story is just the story of the genetic line drifting further apart to the point where, they're having mental issues earlier in life. And so they have to like retire the previous Dusk earlier. And so it looks like it's just a story of like how the genetic dynasty is breaking even farther. But the fact that he has that in his pocket that he meant to give as a gift to Dawn means that he is definitely going to use that for some purpose. So I think he also still has more story to tell.
Man, it feels like so many people in this season have so much to do still.
Right. Like it feels like they have the main plot line, which I don't think is actually their main thing, like Day wants out, but I think he's going to do more, Dusk is trying to stay alive and is, about to be retired soon. And he definitely still has. So it's like, I think they've set up these threads to look like other things, and then they have a bigger purpose.
I mean, I feel like we sell that a little bit with, going over to the Mallows.
Yes.
With
Torin, Beta, Maggie.
Randu, Mallow, who we thought died in the first episode. How did that guy survive? We both agreed that he looked like a cool, interesting character.
Yes.
That probably had some cool, interesting
story to tell. Yes.
And then they killed him off, which we thought we killed him off. Don't know how he survived. We'll allow it. It's fine. We didn't see a body. Okay, he survived.
Yep.
And it is true. He is a very interesting character.
Yeah. And I like how we got more Mallows, that he said, I don't remember exactly what the line was, but something about like bastards that he denied.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting way that we get these other Mallows. I like that. I like their kind of relationship. I like what they are doing in the galaxy. Feels very true to the Mallow name.
Mm-hmm. I like he had a little bit of a menagerie of all of Hober Mallow's stuff, of like a museum almost. And so I think we can confirm potentially, and I'm speculating wild here, but his little tryst that he had with Constant, because Randu is his grandson or grandson, one of the two.
Grandson, I think.
So Hober Mallow, maybe he had other little offspring before.
It made it sound like there might have been other ones, so I don't think it's confirmed that it came from a brother.
Well, in my mind, it is canon that Constant is Randu's grandmother. It's my canon.
I feel like it's one of the other arms because of the family, because I don't necessarily seeing Constance raising the traitors. They just seem different from her. You know, she seems like somebody that like ushered in hope, and they seem like a people that are jaded by what Foundation is doing and are trying to do their own thing.
But I mean, like, that could just be set, you know, a couple generations of drift that feel like
right,
not wanting, because I think that the traitors existing and working with Foundation shows that, because if it was just like somebody that Hober hooked up with before, right, then what allegiance would they have to be traitors for the Foundation in the first place? So to me, it seems like, you know, Hober did this great thing for Foundation. Constant had a Mallow of her own. Then, you know, from there, the, you know, traitors came into line. The Mallows built up this trade union. And then a couple generations later, well, we don't really like the direction Foundation's going in now. We're going to secede. So I still could see it.
The interesting thing is that he actually implied that he might not even be related to Hober Mallow. You know, like he said, like, you know, am I his grandson? Hard to say, or something like that. You know, like Mallow had, like, I don't remember exactly what the line was, but it basically implied that, like, it can't really be proven whether or not he is. It's, you know, obviously his like grandparent probably believed that, like, that's who the dad was,
Mm-hmm.
but that it's definitely not known. And to a certain extent, I think the most Hober Mallow you could be is to, like, grift that you are part of the Hober Mallow family,
Right?
You know,
right.
And that, like, maybe those you know, relics of Hober Mallows aren't even real relics, you know, and that's just like part of the grift. Like, that to me is like the most Hober Mallow thing you could possibly do.
That is fair. It does. So
Randy he probably is part of the family, but it, like, there is the possibility he's not.
Yeah, and I do feel a little sad that we're just getting to this Tauren, Randu, Mallow relationship, like in episode 5, because I feel like there is a very interesting thread with Randu losing his sibling and their in-law, and then also his child in this accident, which I'm assuming is what took his arm.
Right.
You know, they didn't outright say it, but that's the leap I make. And that, like, that, well, and then the whole thing with his arm where it was just like, I didn't replace my arm because he didn't want to replace, like, his son. And, like, this is like such an interesting dynamic, and especially with what's going on, like, with what sides they want to be on, where, like, Tauren seems more in line with Foundation and Randu seems more in line with seceding from Foundation. So I think
Tauren's in line with Pritchard, and Pritchard isn't in line with Foundation.
Second Foundation, he is.
Second Foundation, yes.
It's Foundation,
but other people don't know about that, you know?
True.
Like, Foundation is kind of corrupt. Second Foundation is better.
Yeah. No. I definitely agree that he's in line. But it does seem that they have opposing factions that they're on, which could lead to a very interesting dynamic between them and their goals. And, you know, I think it's a shame that it just got introduced in episode 5, because this could have been something that could have breathed all season.
But the nice thing is, like, I do feel that, you know, once again, even though there's so many different worlds, I feel like they focus heavily on about 2 storylines an episode, instead of splitting it out over, like, 3 or 4. And so I do feel like those storylines get a decent amount of time to breathe in an episode. And so they could easily develop more over the course of one episode and give us something compelling from that. And I think they've definitely set that up to be able to do that. I really like all these kind of relationships. I really like Beta in this episode.
Same. Beta's great.
Definitely. Especially I do like that she's the kind of person that's like, we'll find a way to make room for the bar cart and the extra person.
Yeah, and the bar cart and the extra person. Yeah. No, she's great. I think what this episode did really well with her character was showing that she is not what she seems. Like, she's very much you when we first meet her, she's very like, she seems like an aristocrat that's like, oh, I'm upset that my son is gone, like, so like just bougie. But then we see stuff like where, you know, she's taking a shot of the strong stuff and like doesn't bat an eye. She's using the repair kit or the repair tool, and he was surprised. And you know, he even makes a joke. He's like, oh yeah, you have a great husband here. Like, you know, she's the one wearing the pants, making the decisions, doing all the hard stuff. So I think this was a great episode to show off what her character can do.
I think it also showed off really well Maggie, and he's really interesting. He comes off as kind of childlike, you know, almost like the way that he was viewing the world seemed like kind of like a childlike naivete to him. Yeah, you know, I don't know. There's a certain like sense of wonder from him, and maybe that explains how he's able to like play this music that like taps people's emotions.
He's like an empath. He can like get in there.
Yeah,
interesting. I like that.
And then we've got Pritchard and what he is going through. I think he potentially knew that his greeting back might have been this tough, and I think he's okay with that.
He knew there would be consequences.
Yes.
Is he going to try to escape?
Probably, and I think that the girl that told him not to try anything, is probably going to help. Like, I think that's why she was in the first episode with him and wanted to sleep with him then. You know, like, it set up that relationship so that more can happen.
But also Pritchard's in with Gaal. And so she might be a girl scorned by Pritchard in a way. Like, she might be helping Ember because she likes Pritchard and Pritchard won't give her the time of day. So I could see her not helping him to get out. And that's why she also said, don't even try it. And like also kind of why it felt like she was giving him more of a dirty look to be like, you cheated on me. I mean,
I don't think she knows that.
Well, of course.
Also,
they're
not an item.
No. Of course, she doesn't know that. But I still feel like this messy love triangle could cause problems for Pritchard.
Yeah.
But I do hope she does help because, you know, they seemed like partners and they seemed like they had a good thing. She saved his life.
Yep. And she seems like a good person versus like Ember, who seems like, you know, he's taking advantage of the whole Foundation thing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where Pritchard goes from here. Maybe we'll get to see more of the first Foundation and how kind of seedy it is or corrupt. But yeah, it's not looking good for our boy Pritchard.
Oh yeah. Random tangent. I'll try and keep it short because it is a science tangent.
I love it.
I did not like the voting system that the Galactic Council was using.
Okay.
You know, where they like show what their color is. If they revealed it all at the same time, I'd be okay with it. But the fact that it's like people were like putting them up one at a time so others could see what people voted for and then make changes. Like, seeing what other people do changes the outcomes of what people do. Like, you know, if people see that there's like what looks like a growing majority, they might go with it, even if it hadn't continued to be a majority as other hands went up, you know, so like that could influence things. There's actually a really interesting thing about how a large enough group of humans can accurately predict things that they shouldn't be able to predict. So for instance, if you have like a jar of jelly beans and you ask people to guess how many jelly beans are in there, if there are enough people and they put in their guesses by themselves, so they don't talk to each other about it, they put in their guesses, it's been shown that like the average is crazy close. So like you ask people how much an elephant weighs, like other kind of wild things like that you would think that people wouldn't be able to know. Like large groups are able to accurately estimate that through an average. But once people talk to each other before they add their votes, people base their numbers off of what they heard. And then that whole system breaks.
Interesting.
And the average isn't actually close to it. So I didn't think that was a good system. And I think that, it could still be the same device, but it's like a 1, 2, 3 open, whatever.
Maybe, you know how they have to choose red and green? Maybe they all choose first. And it's like it's also connected to a computer. So all the votes go there. And this part is just like a symbol, like showing of like,
okay,
this is what I chose. This, I'm not going to, because I did think that was a little like, you could like look around like, oh shit, let me switch that. Let me change this real quick. I don't want to be the only one. So, not my favorite voting system, but maybe, I feel like they have advanced technology. Having a little light switch on their hand is probably connected to something. Maybe they put it in quickly.
The light probably doesn't show until like all the votes are in. Yeah.
And then you raise your hand and then you can hold accountable who voted for what. And that's more of what the hand is holding accountability for.
Okay. Problem solved.
I mean, maybe usually I'm picking holes in things, I
mean, and that was minor nitpick, and it wasn't even necessarily with the show. Like,
right.
I could see this system being in place. I just disagree with the system.
Right. That's fair. Also, it does seem like a very small handful of people that were like voting. Like, I feel like it'd be a lot, like 1,000 people feels like to me, like there'd be.
Yeah. Like if you think of like how many representatives we have in Congress that like represent just this one country.
Yeah.
So that people's voices can be heard. Because like that's the whole point is like we it's not an actual democracy where everybody votes for each individual law. And so it is important that we do have representation, which is why it's broken down that way. That's what do those people represent? That can't even be planets because there have to be more planets in the galaxy. So what are they, like sectors of the galaxy?
Yeah.
That's what I think. Oh, that's bad.
So what's his name? Tarisk, whatever his name was. Yeah. He was the representative of the planet right next to Calgon.
I think it was like that sector.
Or sector.
That's, yeah. So like, I think that a representative has like an entire like sector.
And I could imagine that the needs of individual planets are very different. So like one person in control of all these I don't know. That's where I was kind of like, this doesn't seem like enough people to be voting on this.
Yeah. But, you're just going to have minorities be underrepresented. This is bad.
Yeah.
That's why Foundation or Empire needs to crumble.
Honestly, I'm pro-Mule now. I'm pro-Mule. He's the only one that he said Empire's wrong, Foundation's wrong. I'm about to agree. If this is the representation we have,
Empire's wrong, Foundations are wrong. Let's all go to a club.
Yeah, Mule's right. Vote for the Mule.
Vote for the Mule.
Don't vote for the Mule. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But with that, I think our journey has come to an end. Thank you folks so much for joining along with us. Come back next week as we will do Foundation Season 3, Episode 6. We look forward to having you. But until then, I'm Mark. This is Sterling.
Thanks.